Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I'm the Gnarly Gnome. You guys know the drill. This is the show that is actually a happy hour. It's a secret. It's a trick. It's an excuse for us to all hang out together and have a couple drinks. It used to not be a show. It is now. And hang on, I don't know how I feel like settings always change when I'm in between episodes. I feel like everything's all wonky again, as always. Hang on. All right, there we go. If you're new to this whole thing that is the Weekly Pint, it started with COVID, honestly, where we were all kind of stuck in the house and we were craving the camaraderie, the community, the thing that we got when we would go hang out at a bar together. So we would gather here on Mondays. We would hang out in the evening, and we'd have a drink together, and we'd just sit and we'd talk about whatever was happening in our lives or in life as a bigger picture. We didn't stop. We just kept going with this thing. Eventually it became a podcast. It is a podcast. Welcome if you're listening to that audio version. It's the Weekly Pint. You'll figure it out. But a big part of it is that we drink together. We all have a drink, and it doesn't have to be beer. I'm going to drink some beer, but you can drink whatever you want. But tell us what you are drinking. Jump on the chat wherever you happen to be listening and tell us what you're drinking. Marco is having a Neptune that is an IPA from, I believe, is Neptune a Woodburn beer? I don't know. It is from the March 1st brand family. We drank it on this week's Cincy Brewcast, which we'll talk about later, but it's a delicious IPA. It did get a... is it considered a West Coast? I believe it's a kind of a hybrid in my opinion. It's delicious though. Julia is drinking Mellowship. That is a hoppy pilsner. Is that what they call it? You guys are going to test me on all these beer styles. I think it's a hoppy pilsner. Josh is drinking Rockin' the Rhine. I know that one. That is an Oktoberfest. It's back there somewhere. Right there, Rockin' the Rhine. It has not debuted in this year's Oktoberfest quest yet. However, since you can see it there, you know it's coming. You know eventually it'll have to go up against somebody else. Julia says it is an India Session Pilsner. Hoppy Pilsner. Same thing, right? Lee is having bomb hard seltzer here, the pineapple guava. I actually saw those bomb seltzers at Jungle Gyms, and I almost bought one. I can't remember what the flavor was. It might have been like, they have a pina colada or something. I don't know. It the artwork almost got me to buy it. I don't buy a lot of seltzers, but it almost got me. I really, really almost did it. If my house wasn't so full of Oktoberfest beer right now, I might have. Let's see. Justin says, sup. He won't share. Josh says, I won't share what I think yet, not to sway the decision. All right. Well, I mean, actually, have I had... I don't know if I've had that one yet. I drink them before they compete. Like I drink lots of Oktoberfest beer, so I will probably have it before it actually competes in the quest. So it's all right. You can share your opinion. Justin says you'll never guess what I'm drinking. I'm gonna say High Life. It tends to be the go-to. I have 2 beers sitting right here, and since I have 2, you guys know what that means. I wasn't going to do a showdown tonight, but I got 3 new ones into the rotation over the last day, and so I figured I really probably need to I need to get through some of these and start getting round 1 going a little more. So we're going to show them down. We're going to do a showdown. This is two newbies to the competition. These are 2 beers that I have had both of these beers. One of them I just had for the first time tonight. The other one I've had in previous years. But it's the first time both of them have been in the showdown. I guess I should explain the showdown, though. So Oktoberfest Quest, it is a showdown to find the best fest in all of Cincinnati for 2023. And this is my opinion, what I want out of an Oktoberfest, which shifts and changes depending on moods and all of that stuff. It's not to style. It is to Oktoberfest style, which, as we know, is a wide range of everything from Märzens to Fest beers and everything in between. But it is at the end of the day, it's just what I want an Oktoberfest beer to be, and I don't know how to describe what that is because I don't always know. I just I compare them and I pick a winner. The first one we have Warped Wing. This is Lagerstadt. This is an Oktoberfest lager. Beyond that, I don't know much other than it is 6% ABV. There is some stuff written on here. Let's read the can. It says, Lagerstadt, the city of lagers, Oktoberfest, the oldest standing celebration in the world, now together in a can. Lagerstadt Oktoberfest lager, a bright golden lager with copper highlights. Taste subtle hints of honey, hazelnut, and almond paired with light, noble hops. Get a slight malt sweetness that is lightly toasted and nutty, finishing with a clean, crisp lager taste. Bring the homeland home. That sounds delicious. And then this is the fun one. This one just squeaked in to make it a part of this year's quest because the taproom just opened yesterday. This is Schnitzengiggle. Schnitzengiggle. This is from Voodoo, which we will definitely talk about them. They opened officially yesterday. Voodoo Brewing Company. Now, here's where this gets a little confusing, and it probably goes for this one too. This is not a local brewery. However, they have a local tap room in Mason that does not brew here. That goes the same for Voodoo. They have a tap room downtown, and they don't brew the beer here. This is brewed in Pennsylvania, in Meadville, Pennsylvania, in fact. It is a Märzen lager, according to the can, and it tells me it's 5.9% traditional style Märzen lager. And that's pretty much all it tells me. So, but I have drank this. I love the artwork if you guys didn't get a peek at that. It's fantastic. All right. We're going to start with the Warped Wing. And we're going to go Warped Wing into the Braxton mug. This is the Braxton La Rosa's mug, which I recognize is not an Oktoberfest beer, but I like these mugs. Don't judge me. All right. So, Warped Wing in Braxton. I'll put that there. And then we're going to crack open the Schnitzengiggle. And that's going to go into the Sonder and Friends mug. I can tell you right now, the Schnitzengiggle is definitely darker than the Lagerstadt. Both really pretty beers, though. I mean, you can. So the Schnitzengiggle, I'm going to say the Voodoo because I can't keep saying Schnitzengiggle without taking myself less seriously the whole time. They say on there it's a traditional Märzen style, which you expect it to be darker, of course, whereas the Lagerstadt, the Warped Wing, is definitely lighter, a little more fest beer-ish. We're going to start with the Schnitzengiggle. I can tell you right now, aside from just the color of the beer, although when you guys, I guess you can see that one's definitely darker than the other. The head on the Voodoo is drifting away a little quicker. All right, let me get my nose in here. Oh, there's almost like a, it's not, what am I smelling there? Like almost like a cookie kind of aroma, like a not sugar cookies, but like maybe nutmeg, like a baked goods, baked goods. That's what I'm getting right off the top of that one. And yeah, I get I do get some. I'm not gonna call it honey like they described on there, but like a lighter kind of floral thing going on with the Warped Wing. All right, I'm gonna take a big swig of the Schnitzengigel first. Oh. Oh, I forgot to pull the chat up for you guys. Well, yeah, that's good. Um, Man, I like that a lot. It starts with like a almost like an earthy. Hang on. Yeah, there's like a snap to it, like a hoppy snap that I want to say like almost like a cinnamon nutmeggy thing. This does not taste like cinnamon or nutmeg, but that's kind of what it reminds me of, that baked good thing. I like that. I like it a lot. It's delicious. All right, let's get into this warped wing. And maybe ginger. Lee says ginger. Mm. Yeah, it could be ginger. But it could just be that you said that now, and now it's in my head. Um, yeah, man, that's good. All right, let's go warped wing. A lot lighter. Marco says I married a ginger. Oh man, this is probably the first example in this year's competition where I've had to put the two ends of Oktoberfest spectrum together and make them compete. Because the Lagerstadt is definitely a fest beer. This is a good example of the two different sides of what those mean. Fest beer is a little higher in ABV, although they're about the same, 5.9 versus 6. Definitely lighter in color, a bit hoppier, lighter on the palate. It's not a lighter beer, but a lighter kind of on when you drink it. It doesn't taste as heavy. Man, that is a difficult decision though. They're both great. Hang on. Bear with me while I drink these. Mm. Really, really good beers. I would say that this Schnitzengigel, the Oktoberfest from Voodoo, would stretch out a little more into the fall for me. I get a lot of those kind of not necessarily winter flavors, but maybe fall flavors, if that is a thing, that remind me of cooler weather. Whereas the Lagerstadt is definitely more Oktoberfest for me. Which, judging by that statement, I guess you guys can probably assume that Lagerstadt is the winner. Not that Schnitzengigel is a bad beer by any stretch. I really, really enjoy that one. We can go ahead and, honestly, we should probably start there. We should go ahead and talk about Voodoo, because they did open their tap room, Voodoo. They call it a brew pub. It is a tap room / restaurant that opened on 8th Street, and I did get to go there. I did try a bunch of the beer. I have not eaten there yet. However, it is definitely on my list of things to do. And much like this beer, the one thing that I was really struck with these guys is that everything was really freaking good. And I don't know. I don't want to say that I expected it to be bad, but it was better than I was anticipating. I think that we tend to have this thing in our head about these outside tap rooms, and Warped Wing falls into that too, obviously, because they did open their tap room in Mason, and they're definitely a Dayton brewery that now operates a space here in Cincinnati. Um, I was not expecting to fall in love with some of these places, and I loved Warp Wing. I think I might kind of love Voodoo also. It's expensive. That is one thing they have going against them. You're talking about so the tasters are anywhere from like 50 cents to 87. The 87 is what I wrote down for what they cost me. 50 cents to 87 cents per ounce for the little 4-ounce tasters. And you're building out a flight of 5 there, so the flights end up a little more expensive. Pint prices are $7.50 to $8 for the pints that I had, at least. So it's a little expensive. And then the 4-pack of Oktoberfest was $20, which is not that crazy, I guess, in today's world, but it was a little expensive for for a 4-pack of beers that yeah, a little expensive. But you're also, it's a place downtown. I get that. Rent is a little more. There's other expenses that come into that, but that does factor into things. But the beer was great. The beer was far beyond what I expected it to be. I don't know what the food cost, again, because I didn't get to eat there yet, but I bet it's probably not cheap. That's my guess. Gone are the days where you can go and grab a $5 pint. That is for sure. We are beyond that. It is important to note with these guys, with Voodoo. Although Voodoo is not a local brewery, they're out of Pennsylvania. Like I said, this taproom is a franchise, which means that the taproom is locally owned. The owners who live here, they own this space. It is their spot. They are just franchising. Marco says a $20 4-pack of Oktoberfest was not as good as Warped Wings. I would not. We have to be careful how we word that. I'm not going to say it's not as good. I would not say that. I would say that Warped Wing beat that Oktoberfest in my quest, my showdown between the two. However, even with that, as you guys know, in past years, there's always been a chance for people who get beat to come back in a later round. That's, as far as I know, I still have to do the math about how many Oktoberfests are released this year and how that works out bracket-wise, but there will be a chance for them to come back. So they... Justin says, sorry, started looking at new Lego stuff. You left the show to go shop for Lego? That is not acceptable. It's going back to kind of talking about Voodoo. It's expensive, like it is, and I think that as long as you know that going into it, it's not crazy. Like it's not. It's a different type of place. You're not going to go in there and hang out and just sit and pound beer all night, because it's expensive. But to go in there and grab some food, grab a couple beers, I don't think it's that crazy for where it's at in the Central Business District downtown. My opinion. Marco says, honestly, if I saw a $20 4-pack of Oktoberfest, I would have to buy it and try it. I did something similar. I was at BC's last week, I guess, late last week. Stopped into BC's, and they had on tap a Pilsner, what was labeled as a Pilsner, from Fonta Flora. Anybody who knows that there's a little bit of hype there, there's hype there. And it was $10 for a pint of Pilsner. And I looked at it, and in my head, my first instinct was there's no way that anybody can make a Pilsner that is worth $10 for a pint. But there's this other side of me that's like, okay, there's a pint of a Pilsner, and it costs $10. I got to try that Pilsner. So I did. I tried it. And I was extremely let down and disappointed and almost angry at the brewery for putting this out there and charging that much for the beer. I assume this is all coming from the brewery. It was a Justin says, I'll make you a Pilsner worth $10. I'm not saying worth. I think this is what, and this kind of factors into that. I don't doubt that the ingredients that went into this made it worth $10. There was definitely some Nelson going on. That was the hops that I could taste. There was probably some other stuff going on. There were hops that were probably more expensive right now, and I get that factors into the price. But number one, it wasn't a Pilsner because of how hoppy it was. It was a completely, I would call it a maybe a cold IPA if we're still doing that. An IPL maybe. It was not a Pilsner though. Marco says, I doubt it. Seriously, I don't know. I can at least make that make sense in my head that you can dump a bunch of hops into something and it would, in theory, be more expensive. I don't know that is the case with this, but I'm sure there were other factors going into it. But the problem is it left me, number one, I see that $10 price when I'm buying it. And at least I saw the price before I ordered it. God forbid you just see a Pilsner up there and you order it and then you get your check and you realize it was $10. That's a terrible experience for a beer. But it left me expecting something that I was not fulfilled with. That didn't happen when I was down at Voodoo. None of those beers were so expensive that when I got the check, I was like, ooh, I don't know that was worth the price. Maybe I'm crazy, but I don't know that a $20 4-pack is insane anymore. Like I don't want to spend that much for a 4-pack of beers, but I don't know that it's crazy. I'd be curious to see what. I can't imagine that a local bottle shop is selling 4-packs of a Oktoberfest for $20. Maybe they are. I don't know. I have more experimenting to do, I guess, with this new Voodoo influx that is happening in the city. But the beer's good. I think it's actually good beer. They have that going for them. If the beer did not taste good, we'd have some problems because it would definitely get me a little angry. Julia says, I'll look tomorrow and report in. Yeah, be curious. Marco says, for an Oktoberfest, that is a high price point. It absolutely is. It is by far the most expensive Oktoberfest that is in the competition this year. And we're talking about, I think we have 16 different Oktoberfests that are competing right now. And I think we're at like 27 confirmed that I know the cans are coming. There'll probably be a few more even beyond that. So that's a lot of Oktoberfests, and this is the most expensive one. That's fine. Somebody has to be the most expensive one. But that's fine. It's all fine. Everything's good. It's a good beer. Let's completely shift topics to something. Do we want to talk about? Do we want to stick with this new brewery kind of theme, or do we want to go with the elephant in the room of the brewery that's for sale? I'm not even gonna let you guys choose that. We're gonna stick with the theme right now of new breweries or brewery ideas, because we have another kind of new idea, as we'll call it. We have Mind the Dog. So I first, Chris says, what size are all the cans in the competition? It varies. It varies between two sizes so far. We have 12-ounce cans and we have 16-ounce cans. The 12-ounce cans are all 6-packs, and the 16-ounce cans are all 4-packs. There is a chance that there will be other serving options. I leave it open to breweries if you want. If you want your beer as a brewery to be in the competition, you can, even if you don't package it. But you have to get me your beer, whether that is in growlers or crowlers or something. But I don't have any of those yet, and I'm not going to go around trying to snag a bunch of crowlers for the competition. But 12 to 16. Julia says, no 19.2 ounce cans of Toby's. I would love that. If somebody wants to package their beer in 19.2 ounce cans as an Oktoberfest, I think that is a good idea. I'm still a little bit upset that more places are not putting their Oktoberfest in 16 ounce cans. I feel like it makes more sense to me. I think it should be 16 ounce six packs. I've been asking for that for years, and nobody cares. Whatever. Let's see. Craft Parenting Joe says, sorry I'm late to the party. My daughter is not going to sleep. I feel that from the bottom of my soul. Luckily, we are, for me on our family side, we've been pretty good with getting our kids to bed, this week at least. We have school that started, and here we have half days for kindergarten. So last year, my oldest was only going to school for half days. This year, we're not back. We are headed into full day of school. So she is exhausted every night. And we also had cheerleading tonight, cheerleading practice. So she had that. She had gym class today at school. So she was worn out, and I'm assuming is probably upstairs in bed right now, hopefully. And then my youngest is just by himself all day with my mother-in-law on Mondays. So he just ran around and made her play with him all day. So he was also exhausted. So it's working out good. Craft Parenting Joe says, well, they finally got a hold of Fretboard Light and Cincy Light. I've had Cincy Light a bunch, especially in some of the bars around town. The Cincy Light is definitely making its presence known. The Fretboard Light is still not as prevalent on tap around town. I think it will be more prevalent, but I have had it a couple times at Fretboard. That's the only places that I've drank it, but they're both good. Marco says, sell them in small kegs like Heineken. Now we're talking. Oktoberfest in mini kegs. Justin says, I miss the Newcastle mini kegs. I still have some Newcastle sitting in the fridge that I need to make a video about, because Newcastle is probably one of the biggest beer disappointments now because of how much it has changed from what I remember it being when I was a new beer drinker. Marco says, I've had both. I assume the Fretboard Light and the Cincy Light. All right, let's talk about this Mind the Dog. This is, they're making a little bit of news recently, not a ton. I first came across these guys. I follow a lot of different accounts on social media, real nerdy kind of stuff. And one of the accounts I follow is this lady that does graphic design. And one of the projects that she was showing on TikTok or something was her designing this logo of a brewery project. I did not know at the time that it was a Cincinnati brewery project, though, and it was called Mind the Dog, and she did this dog with a hop and combined them, and I made this mental note of it because I loved the logo work and the design work for it. And then, lo and behold, they announced that they are opening this spot over in hopefully Anderson Township. That is the prospective location that they have found. They have a team together. One of them being one of the founders currently has a dog training facility or something, so that's where the dog park comes in. And then one of the other founders is the brewer, which is a guy that you guys have probably heard of. His name is Doug Beatty. He started, I don't actually know where he started brewing, but he has been all over, especially here in Cincinnati. He was brewing at Elevator up in Columbus, Penguin City, I think, up north Akron area, just all over Ohio, Michigan, just a prolific, I guess, is a good way to put it. um, but he is definitely a known a name within Ohio beer. So he is going to run their brewing operations, and they're moving along. They are currently still raising some funding, I believe, which is interesting. They are accepting investors. You can get in and own a piece of this brewery. I believe the starting share prices for being a partial owner is $12,500, which, okay, not crazy, but kind of different than we've seen some of the other places that are looking for kind of, I don't want to call it crowdfunding because it is a little different, but investors from the craft beer community recently. The other interesting thing I think to note about these guys is the location. Anderson Township, and it is on kind of the western side of Anderson Township, which if you are good at your Cincinnati geography, you know that that is very close to former Wags Park. The former Wags Park, which is now called Robert James Park, which is owned by the Robert James Distillery, which is kind of an offshoot a little bit of 50 West. So I assume they're going to have a whole bunch of 50 West beer there, and some spirits and some food. It's pretty close. It is pretty close to that location. So you have this dog park distillery and this dog park brewery, and they are right there, kind of in the same neighborhood. Like walkable, I think. I just unplugged myself. If in my head, where I think this location that they are going to is, yeah, I think it's walkable. Hang on, I'm trying to find my plug. The thing that is also super interesting about that is that the former Wags Park, this Robert James Park is what it's called now, they kind of they made a few of their regular fans that have been there for a long time. Marco says, "Is that downtown?" It just depends who you ask. They made a few people a little bit angry with this new policy they put in place. That yes, they're a dog park and a dog friendly park. I think is probably how they word it. It is your dogs have to be on a leash at the dog park, so they have food and all kinds of stuff, and you have to keep your dog on a leash, which I get. Yeah, if you're like serving food and things like that, it becomes very difficult then to have dogs just running around, and to have it be a fun place to be. But for a place that used to be a dog park and that people go there expecting it to be a dog park, there's people that are upset with it. They have private event nights where you can bring your dogs, and they have leash-free private events. But it's special nights or something. I don't know. I think that if this Mind the Dog opens up in this spot that they're looking at, this is not good news for the new Robert James Park. My thoughts, at least. I could be wrong. I was wrong a couple times in my life. Let's stick on the new brewery kind of topics, and let's talk about this week's Cincy Brewcast. Hopefully you guys have all listened to it. Oh, here we go. Colin says that the Fest beer from Westside is hitting shelves later this week at $11 a 4-pack of 16 ounces. That seems like normal pricing. Seems very, very normal to me. I would pay a couple extra bucks if it was a 6-pack of 16-ounce cans. I'm just throwing it out there, especially that Fest beer. That Fest beer, which definitely almost won last year's Oktoberfest Quest. It was a fantastic beer. Really, really good. So this week's Cincy Brewcast, we were at another new taproom locally. A very familiar new taproom, March 1st, Fountain Square. It feels, especially in the main taproom space, it feels very similar to Blue Ash. So it doesn't feel that crazy as a new taproom. It is definitely kind of a kicked up version of Blue Ash, but it is a new taproom. And we sat down. We talked about kind of what makes March 1st tick, what makes the place successful, what makes them kind of go the directions that they go. It was a good conversation, and we drank a few beers, and it was fun. And if you have not been down to the new tap room, make it a point to go down there. They did on this episode let out a little bit of news that they've been keeping quiet about, and they talked about Hops and Flops, a new event that is coming this summer. So stay tuned for more information on that. It's gonna be a blast. Bob wants to know if I've heard about the Gravel Road Brewery yet. Yes, I have. We talked about it on a recent episode without pulling out my notes. I don't remember when we talked about it. I have not been there yet. That is the one local brewery right now that I have not been to because they're only open on the weekends, and that's when I dad. And so I haven't been able to make it there yet, but I will. I will very soon, in fact. If anybody has been there and has thoughts, please chime in with your thoughts about Gravel Road. As much as it's sad that we have places recently that have closed or are closing or are struggling, we still have these new places that are opening, even if they're just new tap rooms like March 1st, or out of state tap rooms ish. I don't want to call them out of state, because it is, again, locally owned, like Voodoo. But there is still new things that are happening in Cincinnati, from full-on brewery tap rooms to brew pubs to there's a little bit of everything, and there's still new stuff. It is still growing. There are not too many breweries yet for those of you who like to jump on that bandwagon. With that being said, and on that same kind of train of thought, let's talk about the brewery that may or may not, or maybe rumored, or however you want to word this, to be for sale. This is a real estate listing. This is artwork that I made, but if you see the brewery that's in this picture here, you might know who they are if you've been in that brewery. Wiedemann is for sale. In theory, rumored. I don't know how to word this. It's rumored that Wiedemann is for sale. It is a real estate listing that I stumbled across, or was stumbled across to me about these guys, and I'll read the actual, or part of the listing, and you guys can form your own decisions about who this might be referring to. Don't take my opinion as gospel. It says, since 2012, this Midwest-based brewery has produced its own in-house specialty craft beers. The company founders rejuvenated a brand that once had regional and national distribution last century. This company has a 15,000 square foot 3-story building, which now encompasses a lower level brewery, a street level brew pub, and an outdoor beer garden. And there's a bunch of other stuff in between that and this. But then they go on to say that the specific product offerings are top-selling beer is its flagship Special Brew, a light-bodied golden pilsner. They offer various seasonal beers through cans and draft beer kegs, and then weekly special events indoors, including karaoke night, trivia night, and local music groups at the brewery. I'm not promising who this is. I'm not assuming who this is, but Come on. It's Wiedemann, right? uh, Josh says, I thought the picture was Humble Monk for a moment. This is not nearly as hand built as Humble Monk. Look, I like Wiedemann a lot. I think the beer is good. I think the space is great. I think that they nailed what that tap room is supposed to be. But it's a strange brand. But yeah, they're for sale. So if you know anybody that is looking to jump into the beer business and they don't want to invest in a place like Mind the Dog, maybe they can just go buy a whole brewery. Justin says, should I start a brewery finally? Do you have a big pile of cash sitting around? Because that's what it takes to jump in and just start a brewery. And I don't know that I would tell anybody that is a fun route to go. Not that I know from experience. Obviously, I don't own a brewery or own any part of a brewery. I don't think I have any investments that have anything to do with the brewing industry. But everybody that I know that does is not always happy about it. I know that there are still people that love the industry. I love the industry. But you have to have an extreme passion for the industry to survive what is happening right now. Justin says, I have $5 and one hop juju. I don't know that would cut it. I don't know for a fact, but I don't think it would cut it. However, you do you, boo. I will definitely be there, front of the line to support you if you do. Marco says, did you drink the rest, or are you just willing to part with one? That is a good question. Why only one hop juju? All right, last story to talk about, and this is a little more positive than a brewery being for sale. This is a brewery kind of offering a product that I know a lot of people have been asking for a while, and they are meeting that demand. West Cider. I am so pumped about this finally hitting cans, which not quite yet. They're still waiting on cans to come in, but Westside is releasing their cider as its own sub-brand from Westside. I think that this is interesting for a couple reasons. Number one, because Westside is just continually growing in these really smart ways. First, we had this Gilligan's brew pub concept over in Wyoming that's coming. Now we have this West Cider kind of, which, can we talk about how brilliant the name is? West Cider, brilliant. We have not only that coming and the brew pub coming, but it's like these really smart ways to keep growing. But it's also kind of fun because cider had this spark a few years back where it was going to be the next thing, and everybody was starting to crank out these ciders, and then everybody found seltzer, and never mind, we're going to make seltzer instead. And so now we're starting to see this kind of come back, and people are like, okay, yeah, by the way, we did kind of like that cider thing. And the majority of tap rooms that you walk into now have a cider on tap. I shouldn't say that as a fact, the majority. I think the majority of tap rooms that I'm thinking of have a cider on tap, even if it's not theirs that they make. But it's happening. Like there's a real kind of shift into more thoughtful cider, I guess, and between the places around that are producing it themselves, and the places around that have no desire to do it, but are bringing in the cider that is produced locally by people that do want to. I think we're entering into a really fun kind of stage for cider in Cincinnati. Just my opinion. They as of right now, they are going to have 4 on tap, and then like I said, those will hit cans too once the labels come in. They have their dry cider, a watermelon cider, a pog cider, and for all of you fall nuts, there is a pumpkin spice cider that is going to be on tap. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be fun. I enjoy cider more now, definitely, than I did kind of when there was that little cider explosion that happened a few years back. My background light battery must died because it's really dark back there. Here, we'll do this. There we go. There's a little more light. Margaret says yes. Pumpkin spice latte cider. I liked the Braxton pumpkin spice. I thought it was good. It was for some reason like fall flavors work. I shouldn't say for some reason. It's obvious because apples are the base of cider, and apples are to me a very fall flavor. But there was the what's it called, Snug, I think, from Rheingeist. That was kind of like fall, wintry flavors. Obviously, the pumpkin spice from Braxton was good. It's good stuff. I'm excited. I'm ready for it. I did have the best cider I think I've ever had in my life the other night. Last week, I stopped down at Urban Artifact, and Fruit Blood has a cider that is on tap down there, and it is freaking incredible. So if you happen to be a cider fan, not only should you pay attention and get down to West Side for their West Cider as they start releasing it out here and looking for it on shelves, but get down to Urban Artifact. There's good stuff happening. We are entering into a cider renaissance in Cincinnati. That's what I think. We'll see. We'll see if people latch onto it the way I think that they should. Let's go ahead and wrap things up since I've got lights that have batteries dying. Clearly, the world is telling me that it is time to wrap things up. I'm going to go finish both of these beers and double check and make sure that there's no water in my basement after all this rain that we got tonight. So fingers crossed. That would not be fun. We'll be back. We'll be back right here next week for the same thing, the same idea. The Weekly Pint is not going anywhere. Even those weeks where I don't have the bandwidth to do a Cincy Brewcast episode or a Drinking with a Gnome episode, this will always be here because I enjoy hanging out with you guys. So we will see you, and we'll do this again. Maybe one of these nights we'll just sit around and drink a bunch of cider. Actually, there probably needs to be a full-on cider podcast or a full-on cider video or something. I need to talk about cider more. Maybe another cider Drinking with the Gnome episode is in order, because there was one years ago. Stay tuned. We'll have something fun soon for you guys. See ya. Thanks for hanging out. Prost, everybody. Stay tuned. There's more showdowns coming too. There's so much Oktoberfest to drink. It's a good problem to have. Cheers, everybody. Trying to be very purposeful this year about making sure that I keep enough Oktoberfest set aside so that we can finally do the ultimate cuvee of every Oktoberfest beer into one big boot at the end of the season. Stay tuned for that. That'll be fun. And fun is a very loose term. It's going to be awesome. It'll be a video, and you will be invited.